everybody. This is Gregory, 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about my private observations on how I think that much of the Catholic content out there is more concerned about not converting lapsed Catholics or atheists or Protestants or Orthodox to Holy Mother Church, but rather to get typical Novus Ordo Catholics into the rad-trad sphere. Now before we begin, let's start with the prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, sic ut era in principio, et nunc et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen. So I have a bunch of episodes here on kind of like adjacent to this topic. We have an episode like what is actually a traditional Catholic. I do have some videos here that are very supportive of traditional Catholic, I guess you could say, outward accoutrement like the Latin Mass. I have an episode here on 7 reasons why you should think about going to the Latin Mass. I also have videos that are a little scathing of the what I guess you could call the far right Catholic community, because there is certainly on the far right the kind of sentiment of sedevacanism, and there's also the kind of like a new Pharisee, the Pharisaic mindset. The Pharisees were all about the outward sign, the way they would dress, their comportment, but on the inside, maybe they lacked charity and compassion. And I think there is a strand in the rad-trad community that has this. This is the kind of people like who won't shake hands if they have to go to a Novus Ordo Mass. They won't shake hands because it's not solemn or things like this. This kind of mindset, which Christ talks about. The most important thing is charity. Love your neighbor as yourself. Charity. And there are strands where it's not like that as much. And I'm not casting aspersions on every traditional Catholic. I just think that, in particular to this episode, if you take away the large Catholic outreach, namely like EWTN, Ascension Press, but you're looking at private content, whether it be podcasts or YouTube channels, a lot of it is what I like to call apocalyptic Catholicism, right? A lot of it is fear-mongering. A lot of it is worrying about end times. You know, what did Francis do now? What did this bishop do now? How did Vigano respond to this? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And look, largely it's clickbait. These people are not stupid. They know that this kind of cable news, fear-mongering, clickbaity stuff works on those platforms. And sure, on some level, I think that a lot of private Catholic content creators really create their content because they want to help people. But don't be fooled. It's also a way to make money, and they're more likely to get views on things that are very clickbaity, sensational, apocalyptic, fear-mongering, and whatnot. And look, I can speak anecdotally from my very small channel. If I do an episode on how we need to practice more of the works of mercy, that's going to get maybe 50 views. If I do something that is a little more, polemical, it'll get more views. Because I think people in our kind of fallen nature are drawn to these kind of things. And certainly you can see in just the regular world's content, like news outlets, they know this. So you'll find good, well-intentioned Catholics who watch Fox News all day or MSNBC all day, and they get caught up, especially in this election cycle, all day. And I've mentioned, like, stop watching this stuff, because all it does is makes you angry and anxious, angry toward the other side. And again, lack of charity. Okay? Oh, I hate the left, or I hate the right. They're ruining this country. It's lack of charity. So get off all those things. And I would say with the Catholic content, and I'm not going to name any channels, but a lot of them are not like, hey, let's explain the 4 Marian dogmas. Hey, let's explain the hypostatic union, why the church teaches that Jesus Christ is true God and true man. Hey, let's work on the spiritual works of mercy, whatever it is. I'm not talking about EWTN, Ascension Press. I'm talking about pretty much all the other private content. And it's not this kind of stuff to 7 reasons why Orthodox should consider being a Catholic, or Protestants should be considered Catholic. You don't see a lot of that. A lot of it is just that angry, mad, rad-trad stuff. And it seems like their intention, aside from clickbait and views, is to get their kind of superior view, like, you still go to Novus Ordo Masses where they have resurrected Jesus and people are holding hands. You go there, oh my God. You need to go to fill in the blank. whether it be TLM or Eastern Rite Catholicism or Orthodox, whatever it is. It's you need to join us because we're in the know. We're in the cool kids group. You still go to those churches where they play the guitar? There's no charity in that. And you look at the main outlets. The main outlets are more concerned about bringing in lapsed Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, atheists. If you look at the biggest platforms out there, Bishop Barron, you look at EWTN, you look at Father Schmitt's Bible in a Year, Catechism in a Year, among others, right? They're not doing sensational clickbaity stuff. They're doing just good old meat and potatoes Catholicism. And how many people have come to Holy Mother Church through EWTN? Or the other people I've mentioned, and other well-intentioned stuff like Catholic Answers, and the various people that work there that have their own private apostolates. How many people have come? A lot. How many people have come to Catholicism through fill-in-the-blank mad rad-trad channel? Not a lot. Not a lot. So we have to know them by their works and their fruits. And I would exhort you to really look at your subscribe list on YouTube or on Spotify, and really look at the Catholic content that you're listening to or watching, and really see if it fits the criteria of are they being charitable? If you're insulting or maligning the Pope, that's not in charity. Now you might think it is because you're some maverick, and you think it's right because first of all, you might not even believe he's the Pope, or if you believe he's a Pope, you think it's fine to cast aspersions and malign him. And look, we don't have to believe everything the Pope says. We talked about before. We've had bad popes. You could think Francis is a bad Pope. On faith and morals, though, it's a separate story. So if you want to criticize his view on global warming initiatives or his view on the China Catholic policy, that's totally fine. But even if you don't like what he's doing, you got to be charitable. And there's so much lack of charity on the mad rad-trad area, and it's disheartening. It really is. So I tell you, look at what you're watching or listening, and maybe even though you might think, oh, EWTN, Essential Press, they're sellouts, they're normies, whatever you want to call it. I'm like, maybe take a look at your interior in life and focus less on watching this clickbaity, sensational stuff, and work on what? We don't need to know about the 3 days of darkness, or are we in the end times? We're more likely going to die before these things happen. And even if we didn't die before these things happen, we know how to get to heaven, right? Receiving the sacraments, persevere to the end, having charity in your hearts for neighbor and for mankind. And of course, doing little things like works of mercy. Look at Matthew 25, and it's scattered all through the New Testament. Works. Our faith is not by faith alone. We love Christ so much that we want to do works like admonish the sinner, feed the hungry, and the other 14 works of mercies that we have. So increase your prayer life, increase your time on Lectio Divina, or doing a rosary, or going to daily mass. Always look at your schedule. We have that episode here, how most Catholics are really secularists masquerading as Catholics. And I think the best way to know this is look at your calendar. If your calendar essentially is, I go to mass on Sundays, and that's pretty much the only Catholic thing that you're doing all week, you're a secularist masquerading as a Catholic. You might not know it. You've been vitiated or contaminated by secularism, as we all have been living in this rotten world. And what did St. John and St. James say in their epistles? Those who love the world hate God. We live in this rotten cesspool of a secular world with its values. So we need to detach from those values and be in this world, but not of this world. And so instead of watching all this clickbaity stuff, guys, just look at your calendar, look at what you're listening to. Let's cleanse ourselves out of that kind of stuff and work on being better Christians. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. If you don't agree with me, you think that a lot of the mad rad-trad stuff are effective in converting Protestants and Orthodox and all these people, and you think that's their aim, I'd love to hear from you. You don't agree with me. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.